Hello, and welcome back to Automation Realized second day. I hope you had an insightful afternoon yesterday and enjoyed the event. Despite some technical challenges, we had great conversations, a lot of insights from our speakers, in order to bring new perspectives to inspire you in the automation journey. I want to kick off today's conversations with some of the ideas from the previous sessions to connect with the topics you will be hearing today. From Mary Hallward-Dreimer from World Bank and Beatrice Ansez, UI Global Data and Analytics Leader, we heard about the impact of automation and AI on world economies, and how supporting the investments and spread of digitalization needs to be carefully balanced with adequate policies that protect citizens and build trust in technology in order to sustain growth. Also, that the education is one of the main pillars to realize the digital ambitions of our society, and how changing the mindset is a must for leadership. We then had Neil Ward-Dutton from IDC, who shared a comprehensive analysis of the current automation trends, and among many insights, that intelligent process automation technologies can play a role in digital transformation, both in the incremental approach, wrapping up the old system and ways, but also in the transformational approach, reinvent systems and then move data from old to new. He also talked about the strategic approach to automation, the citizens' development, and shift beyond control authority of COEs as some of the key themes that we see in the current context. We then had the representatives of the three automation leaders. We had Boris Kramry from Uipath sharing with us an end-to-end view of how an automation can scale up and how technology can support all steps for scaling up. Then we had Peter Walker from Blue Prism explaining the strategic approach to automations and the outside-in design approach in order to achieve the desired objectives. And Paul Donaldson from Automation Anywhere presented practical examples and shared experience on how to drive large-scale adoption. At the end of the day, yesterday we had two panels in parallel on how to start thinking about automation of customer operations in an integrated manner that enables the customer strategy. Where Enrique, my colleague from Spain, has shared ideas and debated topics with Martin Stevenson from Blue Prism and Ioan Sandru from ION. In parallel, we had another panel on adapting ideas from various backgrounds when designing change experience for the organization. A panel moderated by Horatiu Cocheci from UI Romania, with panelists from Renault, Simona Popovici, Gabi Mocanu from Banca Transilvania, and co-founder of multiple startups, Andrei Crețu. You can see already all the recordings on LinkedIn for those who want to revisit them. We have an exciting day ahead of us, where we want to explore some more ideas to inspire you. We will continue the journey with the automation perspective from the tech giants, IBM, Microsoft, and SAP, as we would like to explore their own automation capabilities enhanced with the recent RPA acquisitions. We will then have demos during the breaks and two live panels in parallel to hear practical examples from different organizations. At the end of the day, we have a very interesting panel with two professors and an entrepreneur to debate how education, art, and technology are working together to help us reimagine the future. I hope you collected some codes from yesterday and will catch some more today, as well to get the opportunity to be part of the automation raffle while also learning new things. So, let's start with IBM. Joining us live from Miami, Arvind will introduce us into IBM's automation vision. He focuses on developing digital transformation strategy for IBM prospects and customers from a technical and business perspective. With his experience in automation and cognitive solutions, Arvind is an IBM certified thought leader. Good morning, Arvind. We are ready to hear from you.
Good morning. Thanks for the introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. And it's good morning from my side. So, before we start, this is our disclaimer note, all the good stuff here. So let's look at our hybrid cloud platform, right? So this is the platform that enables us to include AI with automation or the so-called hyper automation journey. The key point that we meant to emphasize here is that we provide a platform that integrates traditional IT with a combination of public, private, or managed cloud services in a hybrid environment as needed. What we also provide as part of our platform is a complete and well-integrated automation capability that is powered by real-time insights and AI with machine learning. So the key behaviors of a platform that lets our clients enable hyperautomation are as follows. In order to predict the outcome, data from all our capabilities, and we will actually discuss all our capabilities in detail, our hybrid platform is a complete solution. So in order to predict the outcome, the data can be collected, organized, and analyzed. The automation pillars lets the solution learn, detect, decide, and act on the data which are collected from the capabilities. All the pillars are secured and protected to work on any form factor. This is important, right? So we offer on our deployment on cloud. It could be private, it could be public, or it could be on premises. And we also offer a SaaS platform. So clearly the form factors are enormous, and a client can choose to deploy on any form factor, and using the hybrid approach, we can integrate all of them together. So our overall vision for hyperautomation can be broadly divided into three key elements. Our vision deals with digitizing work, applying intelligence, and supplementing the workforce with RPA and digital workers. Now, this has been our vision for some time now. And it was nice to have Gartner come out and say that, yes, we agree with you. So you will actually, I mean, I've not included those papers in the interest of time, but you should be able to download our solution view from the demo booth that has links that actually point to the research from Forrester as well as Gartner about the hyperautomation vision. So let's look at the components of IBM hyperautomation. I will touch upon them quickly in the subsequent slides. But as I just said, please feel free to download the solution view from our demo booth to drill down into the details. So the core automation enables companies to scan or digitize documents, including documents on paper, so that they are not dependent on being in the same building as a room full of cabinets. Manage work. Now, this is typically about workflows, but we support both structured as well as unstructured workflows, meaning we support processes as well as cases. We can build low-code applications that use these automation capabilities using a unified view across all of them. And we provide real-time monitoring and reporting on all these applications so that they can understand the outcome and continually improve. So this is where AI comes in. Now, by adding AI and machine learning, you can understand unstructured documents without needing to know the format of the documents in advance. So this is something that we included as part of our core automation capture solution. And this saves a lot of time, that we'll see in the subsequent slide. We can prioritize the tasks that workers perform using machine learning to match the right people to the task they are best at. So this is, again, part of our workflow where the task can be prioritized based on who's best at a particular task. In terms of predictive decisions, we can combine business rules with predictive analytics. So once again, we have descriptive business rules that one can define using low-code tooling. On top of that, we can add predictive analysis that basically gives the human more confidence in extracting the score as well as deciding on the policies. We also use intelligent chatbots to put a conversational interface in front of automation And the data generated by all these capabilities assists us in gaining unique insights into how to make your automation more effective. And lastly, by adding robotic process automation to core automation and AI, you can perform repetitive tasks to free up employees' time. You can combine RPA with intelligent chatbots so you can ingest unstructured documents and act on the data. And you can make automation even more accessible with targeted purpose-built chatbots that are directly connected to the automation. So now that we have looked at the key hyper-automation elements, let's dive a bit deeper into what we offer as part of our intelligent automation platform. So a platform is called Cloud Pak for Automation. It's modular, integrated, and it lets you start wherever you need automation and scale as you realize the benefits and your needs grow. At the center of this Cloud Pak are intelligent automation capabilities, or so-called pillars. They include capture, content, workflow, decisions, and tasks. So some key highlights are our platform contains a complete offering for the business automation. They're modular and they're pre-integrated. The capabilities offer data capture and document management. They offer content services for collecting, governing, managing, and enriching enterprise content. We offer the full spectrum of workflow, both structured and unstructured. We have digital decisioning to make policies, and we have our own RPA in-house that's used for task or workflow automation. And more importantly, all these capabilities are infused with analytics, machine learning, and AI. At a platform and capability level, we also support the ability for solution development using low code and no code tooling. Lastly, we support various form factors for deployment. As I mentioned, it can be on any cloud. It could be public or private or on premises, and they can all work together in a hybrid way. In terms of governance, we have a framework that contains a set of policies, processes, and standards across the platform to ensure compliance with industry, as well as different geolocations. So in a nutshell, we have a platform that contains all the offerings. Every offering within the platform is infused with analytics and machine learning, and they can be deployed on multiple form factors. So very quickly, let me just drill down into the individual elements. So in terms of capture and digitizing content, we have refocused our strategy towards using intelligent content services. So this shifts the focus away from just storing and archiving content in a repository to how content is being used by individuals and teams. We have tech that we built, tech that we acquired, and tech we OEM to fulfill the various aspects of capture. But having done that, we now cover the entire spectrum. So what are some of the challenges that we solved? For example, our ability to handle extremely large amount of document variations or so-called document classes that needs to be classified, or let's say the data needs to be extracted, that's part of it. Our ability to handle millions of documents in real time has been achieved. So clearly this is optimized for client use, and we have several thousand clients who have been using our core automation products since a long time. In terms of managing work, this is all about orchestrating people and systems. Our offering provides orchestration of both structured processes called workflows, unstructured processes called case management, and they can be used together as part of a single platform. In terms of automate decisions, this is again all about enacting policies, extracting business logic that is embedded in applications. This again is offered as part of our decision management tech. And once again, just to reiterate, everything is all pre-integrated. So decisions, once you build decisions, they can go and communicate with RPA. If they want to invoke an action, they can derive some value from the task and the workflow and so on. Everything is pre-integrated. Now, low code. Now, this is pretty important because there is a tremendous push from personas who are sometimes called citizen developers or shared service developers or business analysts to be able to develop without queuing up for IT to build it for them. So our automation development environment supports a tech called as Automation Studio. This supports both professional developers as well as the citizen developers or business analysts with low code and no code development needs. So clearly, by providing low code tooling, we can improve the overall participation across the entire client space. And they all share the same application repository and related components, no matter what tooling they choose. In terms of monitoring and reporting, so this is a key capability that can monitor and report on operational data collected from all the pillars. So interestingly, all the pillars needed for business automation, workflow, decisions, content capture, etc., they are able to emit events in real time. And also, we are able to correlate the events in real time and gather business decision based on that. And most importantly, much of this is built using open source tooling like Kafka, Elasticsearch, and Kibana. Much of what we offer is not proprietary, it's all open source. So lastly, core automation is all about digitizing the business. So now that we have looked at core automation, let's quickly dig deeper into how AI and machine learning is embedded in or integrated with these core automation capabilities. So in a nutshell, it's all about infusing, rebasing, extending all digitized content and capabilities in core automation. So our core functionality of capture solutions have been extended by applying deep learning to classify and extract contents from documents. So this is all about incredibly complex and detailed algorithms that sit underneath our capture capabilities. They have been trained on different corpus of information, for example, invoices, lending documents, handwritten notes, government ID, and passport, and so on. They also provide learning to improve the extraction rate as you encounter different classes of documents. The algorithms and the platform has been optimized to significantly improve the classification rates, and we provide higher extraction rates than some of our competitors. It's ideal in situation where the customer is trying to capture data from forms, but has an unlimited variety of formats and in many cases, questionable quality of docs. So that's where we do pretty well. And in fact, our tech, which is called DataCap, it's been in the market for like 30 years, and we have one of the largest customer base in terms of using capture solutions. In terms of prioritized tasks, so we offer this new functionality that uses intelligent task prioritization for workflows. This helps maximize an organization's productivity by automatically prioritizing tasks in a way that results in the best overall performance for your team. Here it uses history from the operational data collected and machine learning to figure out who should be the person who should be receiving the next task. So his behavior is pretty much captured by the system, and analytics and AI is used to determine the next best action for a particular task. With predictive decisions, businesses can combine prescriptive business rules. So we have been in the space like for more than 2 decades now in business rules. But now that we have intelligent business rules, so we can combine prescriptive rules as well as predictive models to improve customer experience and make intelligent operational decisions. Chatbots use our natural language recognition capabilities to make out what the user is asking for. So our intelligent chatbots use advanced intelligence algorithms to determine what the user truly needs to know. So these algorithms use machine learning and deep learning to learn from user interactions to improve the recommendations and responses. So that's the advantage that we have, that the more data we collect, the more our chatbots are able to learn and grow in terms of the recommendations that they provide. And since our platform collects data from all our capabilities in a data lake, the algorithms are able to find patterns in this data and predict an optimal response based on its pattern knowledge base and some human guidance. Lastly, we are able to instrument every capability by the click of a button to store events in a data lake and use that data to apply AI to it. We can handle several million data points in real time and correlate them to derive the kind of prediction that's needed. Now let's talk about a final category, which is the robotic process automation. As we all know, we used to support and work very closely with Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, and Uipath, and we still support them. So clients who have them, we will continue to support them. However, we now have our own tech for RPA called as WDG. So this was a recent acquisition. It allows us to build robots and digital workers, but the way we have structured our tech is pretty interesting. So all our capabilities have been exposed as invocable services. And as I said, they are all pre-integrated. Every capability has services which can be exposed outside, meaning that you can invoke a service that can, let's say, be part of a capture or a content solution. So the robot can go and extract data and then act on the data by invoking a workflow of filling out a form. It can act on the data by invoking a decision. It can act on the data by driving a content action. All the actions happen within the bots, so they become a very smart way of driving work. So in essence, RPA and digital worker is a proxy for the human being. And the advantage that we have is all the capabilities are complete as part of a platform. And now that we have added RPA to the mix, it can basically orchestrate the capabilities together, and we can offer a complete business end-to-end business transaction to the client. So very quickly, and once again, please feel free to download our solution view from the demo booth. But some of the key differentiators that our RPA has, because we have been working with the other RPA vendors too, and we still support them. So we offer the solution as a cloud native SaaS or software as a service application also. Now that's very unique in the industry and will help you get up and running faster and enable the RPA application to easily integrate with other important parts of the solution. Our intelligent chatbot capability is a differentiator that enables conversational interactions with your automation using both text as well as voice. And lastly, but very importantly, we offer concurrent execution. So this is a key differentiator that lets you run multiple workload managed bots on the same virtual host, which can be very important from a cost and a resource perspective. So the question one might be asking is, how do we do that? The reason we can do that is because WDG provides the concept of using semaphores to ensure that the resources are used in such a way as to not to step on each other's toes. So once again, our tech has a key feature, but we continue to provide the others too. So very quickly, for the sake of time, I'll just fly over this. So in this section, if you click gradually, you can see our entire tech in action. So very quickly, refund takes 7 days to complete. Normally, by introducing various tech components, we see that we automate the work, we complete, the completion time goes up, and the straight through processing increases. So clearly, very quickly, let me just describe the scenario. A customer orders a product online, it never showed up. Several days after the order was supposed to have been delivered, she fills out an online form to request a refund. In certain cases, she has to attach a copy of invoices. In the current process, all refund requested are handled by humans. Therefore, there is no straight-through processing. The goal, to handle 80% of valid refund requests with no human interaction, meaning we would have 80% straight-through processing. So I'm just going to flow through this. So you see, without any kind of automation added, straight-through processing is 0. There's a lot of manual labor, and the completion time is 7 days. We add RPA. So RPA connects to the billing system by replicating the interactions. And all of a sudden, we have decreased the completion time and increased the straight-through processing. Here, we actually use our content tech. So the intelligent document processing finds the customer number and refund amount with an unstructured document. The completion time goes down and straight-through processing increases. We can add chatbots. And once again, this is all available out of the box. You don't have to write any code for any of these functionalities. So here again, we apply machine learning to automatically handle refunds to the text and speech interactions. The completion time goes down and the straight-through processing goes up. And here is where we apply predictive decisions, which is based on AI and machine learning. So we can use this to, let's say, predict the customer propensity to churn, right? So you see the straight-through processing went up, but the overall completion time went down by 80%. So the fact that we offer a complete stack of capabilities, it's very easy to increase the straight-through processing. So in summary, just to recap, hyper-automation is the goal. It is at the top of the mind for most companies. They want customer journey automation, and they want workforce management. From an end customer's point of view, we offer automation to digitize and automate work, then apply AI and machine learning to add intelligence to the automation and supplement the workforce with software, robots, and digital workers to automate and augment your process. So that is hyper automation in one picture. And I would really encourage everyone to please visit our demo booth and download our solution guide. The solution guide contains links to everything that I spoke about, but you will be able to see the demos and everything. And there are also links to learning, wherein you could basically join and attend a lot of webinars and so on. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Arvind, for sharing IBM's vision on hyperautomation. It was very insightful. And also thank you for starting the day with us very early morning there. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move to Germany, where we have Jens Hansen from Microsoft joining us now. He is EMEA General Manager of Data and AI, and in his role, he's responsible for the growth of the data and artificial intelligence Azure solution business across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. His prior experience includes leadership position at Salesforce and a successful entrepreneurship track record. Jens?
Thank you so much, and hi everyone.
Hi, we are looking
happy
forward
to join you here.
Thank you for joining and looking forward to hearing Microsoft's automation vision and capabilities.
Thank you. I will share my screen now. Okay, so in the next 20 minutes, I would like to give you an overview of the Microsoft Power Automate platform. And it's specifically interesting at Microsoft to see how we bring the different clouds and offers that we have across our portfolio together with Power Automate in that world, right? So I think we want to start with kind of like our mission statement here, right? And our mission statement is really around automation should be for everyone, should be for all, right? And it basically is built around the premise of potential. We have a lot in today's business climate, but time is most often the restricting factor, right? So with soaring customer expectations and the speed of business in general, we see greater competition for resources across the board. So I think the level of automation that we can drive in our companies based on solutions like Power Automate, with the full power of the Microsoft platform as a foundation, will be key, to enable customers to get to that next level in terms of efficiency, in terms of how they can respond, to business challenges, to new market potential. And so Power Automate is really at the key and at the forefront of all the initiatives at Microsoft to bring, multiple clouds in Microsoft across Azure, across Office 365 and Dynamics 365 together. And we also see, working with our customers, that automation delivers, immediate results and also lasting results. And the first thing we always look at is cost savings. I mean, obviously, whenever we automate, we want to gain the advantages that automation brings. And typically, we see on average, 5 to 10% in the areas of cost savings in the first 18 to 24 months alone. So the return of investment into an automation solution is pretty good, to be honest. And then even on the long-term savings, as long as the more processes we onboard onto the automation platform, we see those savings increase over time. So, 30% savings or more over a period of multiple years is not uncommon to see in our customers. And I think that is a true potential that we all need to harvest. Next to the cost savings, obviously, we also can have an impact on gathering opportunities, right? So in the areas of workforce innovation, we see, based on a study by McKinsey, we see, that at least 60% of the typical activities, can be automated by 30%, which is obviously a big push and a big leverage we all have in our companies. Next to the workforce innovation piece, the productivity that is increasing across the board, in the workforces is quite tremendous at roughly 50%. And that is specifically important in today's climate, business climate, is the faster time to value. So we need to connect the dots between the data points and the different processes that we have, and where automation can bring true value. And then also, I think one big effort in general that we see happening in most of our customers is that we want to make sure we have happy employees, right? Especially in today's world. And so the more productive we can get them, and the more of these mundane tasks we can remove from them, will result in a lot of employee satisfaction, and that will obviously have an impact on the customer satisfaction as well. So along the entirety of all the customer interacting touch points that you might have in your businesses, in sales, in service, in marketing, whenever we can automate, that typically leads to a better customer satisfaction because the experience is just better. And I think customer experience, the expectations there have been, raising quite a lot over the last couple of years, and so automation really delivers that edge, right? That we can serve our customers better through automated processes in the background, and by doing that, also our employees are more engaged, right? Because they have a better framework on how to, serve their customers best. What we really wanted to make sure here at Microsoft is that we sort of democratize the automation piece, right? Because we all know we have pretty complex and heterogeneous environments, and so we really need to empower everyone in that ecosystem to make sure that we can leverage automation. And so it's not just an expert task, right? We need to have a seamless infrastructure that supports the security and the automation piece across RPA and DPA on a single cloud basis to make sure that we can drive that innovation at scale within our companies, right? And so what we're trying to accomplish here is to really span the entirety of it, as in we want to make sure we have a good solution for end users. Also, if there's more coding needed, we need to make sure we cater to the audiences of experienced developers and IT admins, so that Power Automate can really unfold its full potential across the entire organization, because we bring everyone on that journey to drive automation across the board and across business processes in our organizations. And so what does that mean in terms of Power Automate, and how do we think about the primary value that Power Automate brings to it? So automation at scale is one thing that I touched on already, right? So we want to make sure we can efficiently scale automation across the organization, and that applies to the number of processes, the number of business units, and the different set of employees and roles that we have in a typical organization. So that is really key to us. That is not just a professional developer or IT piece here, but that every user across the entire organization plays a part in that automation journey, because it really is an automation. I mean, typically we see customers starting with some high value use cases where automation potential is very high, some of the, if you will, low-hanging fruits. But then over time, as we're trying to scale this out across the organization, it's really key that everyone in the organization can contribute to the automation efforts, right? Security, I mean, in today's world is obviously very key to everything that we do, especially when we connect multiple systems across, multiple clouds. And so we need to make sure that we have a secure environment. We need to ensure compliance, right? We need to make sure that this all happens seamlessly, almost transparent to the users of the platform. And that's a big emphasis at Microsoft across our automation efforts, that we strive to have that platform in place that offers the agility, but also comes with the integrated, and built-in security and compliance and governance, right? At the end of the day, what we want to accomplish, and that's pretty much stating in the office, right? But we want to accelerate productivity. We want to make sure that we can focus our workforces on the more strategic work, right? We want to remove the tasks that can be automated so that they can spend more time on better serving their customers, right? Making sure we expand in sales, that we are not, taking 40, 50% of our time just to work on resolving issues that might be pretty repetitive, right? So I think the spirit of this is around productivity in general, but then, more specifically, we need to build in intelligence into the whole automation game, right? And I think that's where the rubber truly hits the road at the end of the day. Whenever we have multiple systems in one process, and then we put in an intelligence layer on top of it that helps us not just automate decisions, but make smarter decisions. And so with the full power of the Microsoft platform to that end, I think we have a very valuable offering here, as in we cover the data and the artificial intelligence piece of the automation process quite well. And I will show that in a minute, right? So, if we think about the Power Automation platform and what does it mean for Microsoft, you can really, look at these 4 pillars as sort of like our core, strategy. And I said this in the beginning, I think it's very important to understand, and a lot of our customers, have been asking us for over the last couple of years to invest in that area. And we heard them loud and clear, and we made those investments that, especially manifested themselves in everything that is named Power at Microsoft, right? So from Power BI, providing very powerful business analytical capabilities, not just in the terms of in the realm of process automation, but in general across the company. So we have a natural advantage here, because most of our customers are already using Power BI in other disciplines and other areas. And so, bringing that analytics around processes into the platform with Power BI is a true game changer, because you already have, in most cases, a lot of users that can actually use Power BI right now. They know how to do it, right? So that is truly an advantage of the platform, that we have that integrated across popular Microsoft tools like Power BI. The automation aspect of it was Power Automate that typically pulls through some new application development work that needs to happen, to gain that extra 5 to 10% of automation in some processes, right? For the most part, in automation, we connect systems, we automate tasks, but also sometimes we need to build in an extra step. And with the Power Apps platform, we have a low code and no code option to do this, right? So we want to innovate fast, and the Power App system, allows us to do so, and then seamlessly integrate that into the Power Automation. and also expand that in terms of the user interface, if you will, into virtual agents, right? And all of that, bridges basically Office 365, Azure, and Dynamics 365, so that you can implement, seamless automation across processes that typically, use any of those components. As in, typically you might have, a sales process or a service process in Dynamics. Then you need to use some backend capabilities that might live on Azure, and also there's in a lot of processes, some manual work that's been done in Office 365. So bringing that power together, as a foundation, supporting our cloud strategy around Office, Azure, and Dynamics is truly powerful, right? And that especially manifests, if you look at sort of the foundation layer of it, in terms of the data connectors, right? Automation can only be as good as the connection to the data. And these connections to data points, the data that you need to pull in order to make automation real, that can live in a lot of systems, as you guys know, right? So the connector base that we have across the board is a true asset for every customer. And then on top of that data layer, if you will, to build AI on top of it, so bring intelligence to the process with AI Builder seamlessly. Is a very powerful feature, because typically what we see in projects happening for the most part is that customers start embracing automation, and they typically start on that journey with, first of all, Power BI, understanding where do we need the most time in a process, how does that process flow is at the end of the day, and then automate that. But in the first instance, for the most part, this is done just by automating, based on the current systems that you have. In the next level of that, and typically step 2, is to infuse intelligence, to make sure that whenever we respond and in an automated fashion to a customer service request, that we infuse some intelligence, as in might be, a machine learning model that wants to inform us about the risk that this customer attributes, right? And based on the risk that the machine learning model surfaces, we might want to respond differently. We might want to escalate differently. So AI is really the next level then in automation. And all that, has to have the foundation of a common data service, because the number of endpoints and the number of data sources that we need to manage can be, quite difficult if you don't have that, common layer where we bring together the data, the systems, and the artificial intelligence. To also, gain more speed in that process of automating, what we do is we provide more than 275 what we would call connected experiences, and basically that means is that we can seamlessly plug with pre-built connectors, into the systems that most of our customers have, right? So Zendesk would be an example, Adobe, right? And keep in mind, I think the complexity in terms of the number of systems you have to connect during the implementation of automation tools, the number of connectors that you have is truly a game changer, right? Because it just helps you, not just gain speed in terms of time to solution in that automation journey, but it also enables you to do that at scale, because you don't have to build all these connections to systems yourselves. And it also unlocks or helps another audience within most organizations to work on automation tasks as well, because it's not primarily an IT task anymore, because with the help of the platform plus the connectors, it's truly efficient, truly scalable, and even end users can work on automating tasks with simple drag and drop exercises. So what you see here on the screen is just an example of how can we build a flow that invokes AI models to then make this an automated process based on outcome of that machine learning model. And I think here you can see on the screen is a good example of triggering event here is an email that arrives, right? But then we invoke the AI platform of Microsoft, which lives on Azure, and again spans the entirety of your heterogeneous data estate, if you will, and so here we can make sure that we leverage existing models and onboard models pretty fast, because next to the automation, there's a fair chance there's already some good models that's been implemented in the organizations that we want to leverage as part of the automation flows. And so here in that example, we just leverage an existing machine learning model, and then we route it based on the confidence that that model returns as a result of the input parameters we get into the model. So you see, it's pretty straightforward in terms of once we have implemented the platform and we have laid the foundational work, if you will, then the true power of the platform comes into play. Especially interesting for a lot of customers is Power Automate whenever we talk about Dynamics 365, right? Because obviously, a lot of business processes are then already defined and implemented in Dynamics 365, but we can truly understand, especially if we look at some telemetry data, how these processes behave. And so approval processes are a good example here, right? One good example of this might be request for discount in a sales organization, right? Which typically is pretty cumbersome across the board and has multiple approval steps, and so it takes a long time to actually get a discount approved in a lot of organizations. But with some intelligence that we infuse into that process, we can reduce the effort that it takes, and we can reduce the number of approval steps that might be necessary, because when we look at customer history, similar patterns in terms of discounts across other customers in the same bucket, we might not even need 5 approval steps in a specific instance. It might be just 2, right? And so that automation then really plays to the strengths of the data that already lives in Dynamics, plus the data that lives outside of Dynamics that we add to the process in order to inform the automation flow here. And it's just the seamless integration between Dynamics and then the Power Automate platform and the Microsoft platform in general. It's just a big plus for most of our customers, because it helps them to get going fast, right? It helps them to automate a lot of processes in a short amount of time, which then really helps to drive the return of investment in such platform. And especially, Microsoft 365 for everything that is not kind of like, in a back end or front office process, right? A lot of the processes that we have in organizations is somewhat implemented in Microsoft Office 365, right? Could be just an Excel, could be a Microsoft Teams application, could be a combination of those. But basically everything that is not hyper-structured, for the most part, lives in Microsoft 365. And I think that's where a lot of the automation potential can be harvested, right? Because we have all the elements, as in that's the typical UI where these users are, participating in a specific process. And so by seamlessly integrating the automation capabilities in Microsoft Office 365, Microsoft Teams, part of it, for example, we really have the opportunity to also address the automation of processes that are not typically addressed in the first batch, because for the most part, companies often start by automating the processes they might have in their ERP system, in their CRM system. But there's estimates like in some workforces that up to 70% of the processes are somewhat loosely defined and then used, for the most part, Microsoft 365 to support it, right? So you can see the potential is if you actually leverage the Microsoft 365 adoption, but then bring automation to it, right? Because all these smaller processes have a lot of potential for automation, but typically are not tackled because it's kind of hard, to understand what the true process flow is, when it's loosely coupled process across multiple, Office 365 programs. And I think that is the true power of the platform, that we have that close integration, with the Microsoft Office 365 stack. That will help organizations, leverage automation far above and beyond what is typically considered to be low-hanging fruits in automation. So if we look at what we would call the attributes, right, in automation, it's such a diverse scenario for the most part, right? We need to make sure we capture, all the triggers that we are able to scale to the edges there, right? And that could be just from a simple UI, it could be from a cloud application, could be from a Microsoft Office document, or it could be, from a process that lives within Microsoft Dynamics 365. And so that we support all these triggers as part of the platform will truly help scale the automation efforts to every business process out there, right? The seamless integration, we already talked about that. And then making it easy and fast to do this, right? With the connectors, we talked about that, but also like templated actions, right? So how can we make sure we drive automation at scale? Is through connectivity, that we embrace the heterogeneous world that's out there, but also make sure we have the right actions predefined so that you can innovate fast on the Power Automate platform. I'm just conscious of time here a little bit. I think Microsoft, just to wrap this up real quick, and we probably would need a bit more time to go into the details of this and share more use cases, right, going forward. But I think the story and the narrative I want to land with you today is that Microsoft has the power really embedded across our clouds, right? So a lot of customers have started working with Azure. We have a strong Microsoft 365 footprint out there, and we have a lot of Dynamics customers. And if you want to bring these worlds together and drive automation at scale, then the Power Automate platform from Microsoft will be a good fit for most customers.
Thank you very much, Jens. I think it is very useful for all our participants to understand the end-to-end view of the automation platform and the combination that we explained. Thank you again. And now we invite Diana Galbinașu from SAP to explain the SAP automation capabilities and use cases. In her role as Platform Innovation Executive, Diana is committed to driving innovation that leverages the combination of the latest business process management, digital bots, and process analysis technologies, enhanced with AI. Welcome, Diana. The screen is yours.
Hello, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today and for asking us to join this great event. I'm glad to have the next 20 minutes to share with you the latest enhancements to SAP Intelligent RPA and how it can help you build business resilience during these uncertain times, and not only, actually. As the nice introduction from our host here today, I'm Diana Galbinașu, and I work as Platform Innovation Executive at SAP in Central and Eastern Europe. And this gave me a chance to work closely with customers who decided to use new technologies to upgrade their businesses and increase revenue and efficiencies. Without any further introduction, I will let the colleagues from the technical department to share the video about SAP vision for process automation, and then we will continue with some details.
You have experienced SAP Intelligent Robotic Process Automation, the smart combination of RPA and machine learning technologies. So it's the natural next step to enable all employees in your company to build and run bots for their processes using Intelligent RPA. That means, in addition to traditional bot developers with a deep understanding of technology, you can give automation power also to medium-skilled coders and pure business users with no coding background but functional expertise. SAP Intelligent RPA 2.0 is a totally new experience of a bot design, with its Cloud Studio focusing on simplification, intuitiveness, and efficient automation building. Easily capture applications, pages, and controls, and assemble them to build end-to-end automations. Use the visual programming capabilities to parameterize and control complex steps in business workflows. No need to install software on your local machine anymore for assembling automations across applications, but having the freedom to still use the desktop agent on any machine in combination with the Cloud Factory for heterogeneous settings consisting of native applications and web applications. Take the next step in automating any component of your IT landscape with SAP Intelligent Robotic Process Automation 2.0.
So just a moment. So as you have seen, this is how we see the future with a holistic approach to process automation. But at the moment, we have seen many enthusiasts of the technology, which is really nice to hear. Unfortunately, they often see RPA as a band-aid rather than a scalable solution. So if RPA is applied in this way, the long-term costs of added complexity can actually outweigh the short-term benefits that companies hope to realize. So process excellence, however, in our opinion, is considering people, processes, and technology in the mapping of change. So this is how we believe the landscape of RPA is changing, and organizations are realizing the need for a more sophisticated approach to delivering automation. When we think about process automation, we would like to start with finding the answer to one very important question: what to automate? And this discovery can be done by using process mining solutions like the one from our partner, Celonis. And once we discover what to automate, for instance, you would like to actually automate what you have discovered and do multiple channel integration, for instance, to make automation more efficient, or to use AI for reducing manual activities further. And finally, to continuously monitor and control what you have automated. For doing all this, SAP has a rich portfolio addressing those particular aspects of automation journey, and this is the business technology platform. So to achieve process excellence and augmented human intelligence, businesses must embark into the journey of hyperautomation and take into consideration also the virtual circle of understanding, improving, automating, and monitoring the processes. And customers globally are already achieving high efficiency, also high speed and compliance with a quick return of investment by easily adopting SAP Intelligent RPA. Using our solution, businesses can bring automation to all processes. Doesn't matter the industry, for instance, record to report, plan to production, hire to retire, and lead to cash. But when considering automation, there are certain industries and fields that come to mind almost instantly when we are thinking about this. And this is, for example, shared services, customer services, financial departments, operations, and data management. But the truth is, in any business, no matter the industry, we could find at least one scenario that could be benefit from the added value of RPA. So let's look at some hyperautomation examples from our customers and see some of their benefits, which in our case include a significant reduction of manual effort in finance with attended RPA, gaining the ability to restart systems 100% autonomously using chatbots and robotic process automation. And we've seen this request a lot during this pandemic. Saving of more than 5,000 hours by launching, for instance, in our customer case, 22 projects with SAP Intelligent RPA services that downloaded the external open market information and created sales orders. Also automated 24/7 sales order processing, freeing up to 20 employees from manual tasks and turning 4 days of work into 10 minutes tasks. So this is something that our customers achieved, and it's also room for you to try. You can find also more details about this and many other success stories on our website and in our community blog. But let's look also in some examples with some clear step-by-step description of some of the solutions and bots that we have implemented. So one of the processes specific to consumer products business is a trade promotion. So in a crowded and competitive omnichannel marketplace, businesses need to ensure that their trade promotion plan is accurate to predict and fast respond to the right promotions. And if we are looking at the steps here, we see that the analytics engine is based on data inputs, prepares a trade promotion. Then, of course, this is an attended use case, being very sensitive. The marketeer needs to approve and amend the trade promotion plan. Then the bot comes to action, and it sets the promotion plan in the system, including objective, total spend, and other details, reads the email for incoming financial claims. Then any exceptions to the claims need to be addressed again manually by the user that is attending this bot. But then again, for each promotion, the bot generates the daily performances report and sends it to for feedback to the necessary stakeholders. Another use case can be in discrete industry, and let's be honest, this industry is known to be excited about robotics, and they are in a unique position with the rapid adoption of Industry 4.0 framework. So adding hyper-automation to this, they will move towards an ideal situation of producing a lot at the scale, let's say, and serving customers with new business models. So in this case, we have the product maintenance automation, where the IoT alert is triggering the workflow to raise a service ticket to replace a high-value part. And the bot is logging into the system, checking the availability, and if not available, it will create a purchase order for to acquire the respective component. And then it creates the service request towards service provider to go and replace the part. Of course, the workflow will send notification that the job has been, when the job is completed, and in the end, the bot will raise the invoice to customer and process all the payments to vendor and service provider. In the oil and gas industry, the breadth of energy and natural resources industries make it unique, if we can look at it this way, because we can consider that it has the flavor of many industries within one category. And an example for this industry can be, for instance, the energy or commodity trading and accounting, where the workflow is initiating the trade settlement process. Then the bot uses agreements and transaction data to carry out settlements in the system. Of course, if there is an exception, it needs to be addressed by a human being, the user that is administrating the process. And after this is, the exceptions are addressed, the bot picks up and enters the data into the system. And then further raises invoices and sends emails and runs the report to send all the information to the important stakeholders. But of course, we are talking about SAP Intelligent RPA. So of course, we have also some examples that are designed especially for our systems. So in this case, we are talking about the updates that are manually executed based on physical inventory documents generated in S/4HANA. And the SAP Intelligent RPA bot generates the physical inventory count lists based on the PI documents in the S4 system into a template. And once this template is filled up after counting, the template will then be handed to the next RPA to post inventory updates into production. And these kind of examples are also coming with some predefined templates for the bots. So for our systems, you will see also later in the presentation, we have many advantages that you can take benefit from. But the SAP Intelligent RPA can work perfectly fine also in situations where no SAP system is in place. For example, during this pandemic, we have automated the payment application for reduced working hours compensation due to the coronavirus pandemic. And we had to collect and upload data from third-party systems, and no SAP system was involved. So in economically calmer period, the Office of Economy and Labor in Zurich would receive about 10 requests for payments for reduced working hours every month. But in March only, they received 30,000 applications. You can imagine there was an overload and they needed to do something to act on it fast. And this is where we came in, and in just 2 weeks, we managed to implement the bot that processed all those applications with reduced efforts up to 85%. So the compensation reached the applicants quickly and in time. These are some of the examples that I chose to share with you today, but of course, you can find many others in our booth. So the past approach to automation had, let's say, more developer-oriented tools and fragmented solution space with limited integration between BPN, RPA, chatbots, and other technology. But we acted on our vision, and now we combine these technologies to achieve hyper-automation with process excellence towards advanced decision-taking and self-learning bots. So we built our tools to address both citizen developers who need low-code and no-code platforms, as well as expert developers, putting the system integration as one of our top priorities. So when we acquired Contexters and included it in our portfolio as a SAP Intelligent RPA, we had the vision to develop a tool and adapt it to fit perfectly the SAP ecosystem. And this is what we have today. And we have a team that is continuously working on new features to make our customer businesses more efficient. And I can mention some developments in areas like hyper-automation, for instance, native integration with SAP Intelligent BPM, dedicated connectors to SAP UI5 and SAP GUI, and integration with our chatbot, SAP Conversational AI, and other chatbots as well. Developer experience enhancements include the no-code experience and event-based capture for bot building. And what is maybe one of the most important things I can say to know is that there are plenty of bot templates for SAP S/4HANA and ECC, and also cross-LOB content and SAP best practices as prepackaged bots available on SAP Intelligent RPA store that are waiting for you to discover them. Another strength of the SAP RPA, and the one that I was mentioning a few times already, has been in the areas of automating SAP's own applications, because now we have more than 123 previous best practices bots. And the number is, trust me, it's only going up monthly. And these bots can be easily reused as plug and play to speed up development of bots for standard SAP processes. And the average time is around 1 day to implement if we use just the standard process. So the SAP Intelligent RPA solution contains also API triggers framework, which simplifies the integration with business process management solution. This is combined with UI-based bot access and APIs-based orchestration. So if you can imagine, this is where SAP Intelligent RPA is trying to overarch human to system and system to system integration for a complete end-to-end digital process execution. And this is what we aim with process excellence. And another important feature is the connectors that I already mentioned that actually make a difference when developing in context of SAP solutions. And we are calling connector the technology which allows you to drive an application with a robot. And the connector will translate the actions you want to perform, for instance, like click, open a tab, navigate in a tab, table, and any other aspect of an SAP GUI system, in this case, into the appropriate technical language. And you'll be able to access all of the objects and very complex objects from the SAP GUI interface and use deep recognition criteria to create your robotic object library. Of course, besides the SAP connectors, we have also the usual connectors for developing with PDFs, Excels, and other applications that are most common in these RPA processes. All these tools have a positive impact on the development process with more modular programming. Reusability of code is easier, and drag and drop items that generate written code are easier to use. And if you have heard from some other people that maybe our tools need some coding, well, what I can say is that these drag and drop tools generate the coding behind. And now we have even more accuracy, and we worked a lot to improve this. So the moment that you are dragging and dropping the elements into your flow, it will generate the code behind. And only if you want to do some more tricky and complex use cases, you need to, and you will have to look into that JavaScript code behind. And when it comes to choosing the commercial architecture, SAP Intelligent RPA is offering a great flexibility with commercial options to license and adopt the solution on a consumption-based model. So what you have to remember after this session is that you can develop as many robots as you want and have as many developer users as you want to work on with the SAP Intelligent RPA tool with no added costs, having support for both attended and unattended scenarios. And our solution is an easy to adopt, secure cloud service, which can be implemented and operated remotely within few weeks from scratch. And part of the SAP Intelligent RPA product management team is focusing to continuously offer integration with SAP technology and the SAP product portfolio, enabling hyper-automation with infused AI and machine learning. So we will continue to add new pre-built content on our store, so stay tuned to see more about what will come next. But before wrapping up, I want to say something about the innovation of the SAP Intelligent RPA that are on our roadmap. And we are looking for accelerating time to value for automation and infusing AI capabilities to make automation smarter. But most importantly, innovations to add innovations that help you run enterprise-grade automations at scale. Before wrapping up, one more thing to say is that there are three main core principles of SAP Intelligent RPA. And these are the recommended integrated RPA solution for automating SAP solution applications. And I think we can agree on this one. And stable and efficient RPA, reducing implementation time and maintenance efforts. And last but not least, enabling hyper-automation with the extended business technology platform. If you are interested to find out more, I invite you to join our community with plenty of materials and access to our experts who will be there to answer any questions regarding the topic. And also, if you want to try it, you have access to the trial account and just take a look at all the pre-built bots that are in the SAP Intelligent RPA store. At the same time, if you want to find out more or contact us, in case you want to ask a question, just drop by our booth. And you can leave also your email if you want one-to-one conversation on the topic. Thank you so much for being here today. And stay tuned, and you'll hear from us more on how to attain the process excellence. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Diana, very much. I think it was really insightful to see so many case studies, which shows the diversity of use cases that we can have for intelligent automation across various business divisions, but also across various industries. So we will have a break, but after the break, we will continue the conference with two panels discussion, which will go in parallel, which will take even further the scale-up challenge. One of the panel is a dialogue on the topic of how cloud is accelerating the pace of automation. Stuart Fennick from UI will facilitate the exchange of ideas using his extended experience in large digital transformation. Stuart is currently leading the cloud practice in technology consulting in EMEA, a continuation of his career in technology with cloud and Oracle. For over 20 years, he has helped enterprise companies innovate and take new approaches to market, leveraging technology, including mostly recently using cloud platforms. He will introduce you the guest from Regina Maria, Microsoft and UI, who will explain how they drove transformation initiatives using cloud and automation. In parallel, we have a second panel, which is debating how is the automation pipeline continuously enhanced with new ideas, trying to answer, linking back to Diana's question, what to automate. The panel will be moderated by the cognitive solution leader in EMEA Intelligent Automation team, Selma Turkey. She has extensive client experience in this area, working with global clients to set up and drive implementation of automation strategies. In the panel, we have guests from P&G, Uipath, and UI to share insights on the implementations, and Selma will introduce them. During the break, I invite you to visit the demo booth area, the demo sessions which will take place, and I will see you back in 20 minutes for the panel selection that you have made. Enjoy.
So thank you and hello everybody. My name is Andre. I'm here together with Ciprian, and we're here to show you one of our most popular showcases today. This is one showcase that we have in the Immersion Lab, and it's very, very popular for good reason. Today, we are going to show you our intelligent invoicing showcase. And the reason why it's popular is because it's one of the most commonly automated processes in the RPA industry, and for good reason. It involves a large amount of manual work, so people just looking, staring at documents and copying, pasting them, and then moving them through multiple applications. Manual work comes with errors, comes with delayed SLAs, and with headaches for everyone. And on top of everything, because humans are doing the actions, they're also prone to errors. Now, the solution we came up with for this kind of challenge is we're using Uipath robots, of course, but we've added a lot of AI technology to help support the RPA implementation. So we're using intelligent ABI activities to classify the documents. We're using Microsoft OCR to read, scan photos. We're using Action Center to validate, so we have humans in the loop in this process, and we're using everything is focused, is put in beautifully in our document understanding framework. Afterwards, once we have the data and we work with the data, it's all put into SAP. Now, some of the benefits are obvious, so you get reduced processing times because robots are doing the actions are done very, very quickly. Because robots always follow the workflow, you have a low exception rate and increased accuracy. And because robots also log every action that they take, you have very high traceability. Now, enough of slides. I only have this one slide, so let's move on into the showcase directly. Now, what you can see right here, this is a virtual machine. And on this virtual machine sits a unattended robot. Now, in normal circumstances, you wouldn't be able to see this unattended robot because it would sit on a virtual machine. But we've made an exception just for this showcase. What you're looking at are the two documents that we are going to process. So we have one invoice here. This is a digital invoice, so the text is selectable. This is the kind of invoice you would expect from a digitally inclined company. And on the right over here is a photo of a receipt. So none of the text is selectable. This is just a photo, and it's not a particularly good quality one. It's a normal photo that you would take with a smartphone, right? And this here is our Uipath Assistant. This is where we can start robots from. And as you can see, one robot can do multiple processes. I'm just going to start this process manually. In a production environment, this would be triggered by an event or scheduled or put in a queue in any way that would be relevant for your process and for your applications. Now, what the robot is doing is checking to see if we have any documents in a folder or in email, and it did find a couple of documents, and it's asking me, okay, so how do you want to process them, attended or unattended? And we have two options here. In attended mode, we would need another person on another computer running another robot, so an attended robot, to validate the data. But because we only have one computer, today we are going to use unattended mode. And this means that all the validation will happen in the cloud in our action center in Uipath, Orchestrator. Now, I started the robot and the robot is working right now. Now, you can see these small little yellow pop-ups indicating what it's doing. But let me tell you exactly what it's doing. So it's doing three main steps. First, it's looking at the documents and it's classifying them. It's using an ABI activity to classify the documents into either an invoice or a receipt. Once the documents are classified, it's checking to see if they need OCR. So if it's a scanned photo or a scanned document, any kind of a photo, it uses Microsoft OCR to extract all of the data in the document so that we can process it later. Once the data is extracted, so first classified, then we use OCR. The next step is to use our own proprietary machine learning extractor hosted in AI Fabric to get only the relevant data that we need from both documents and organize it in an easy to understand fashion for our human validators. Now, once all of these steps are completed, what happens is the robot switches to another process and builds two automation tasks in Uipath Orchestrator so that a human can validate the data that was extracted from these documents. And this is how it looks like. This is our action center in Uipath Orchestrator. Now, all I have to do is refresh my task, and you can see that I have a couple of validation tasks. I have to look at them and see. And Action Center is hosted in Orchestrator. Now I have an admin and I can see multiple functions of Uipath Orchestrator, but according to your company's requirements, you can just have users see only the Action Center. Now I can open the task that I have right here, obviously assign it to myself. You can automate this. You can automate the assigning process also. And you can see this here is our validation station. It shows the document on the right and the fields that were extracted on the left. And you can see that every time I click a field, you will see that it highlights the relevant information that was extracted over here. So it's really easy to see what was extracted, what wasn't extracted, and really easy to check. So a human wouldn't have to search the document to see where the data was extracted from. And we can see here that the shipping address wasn't extracted. So let's see how we can extract it real easy. I would just use our selector tool, select everything, mark them as tokens, and add them in the shipping address. And that's it. The shipping address was added, and I don't need to copy and paste. I don't need to search the document. I need to type anything. I don't need to make sure that I didn't put in a typo or anything like that. I can check the line items in the invoice and then save and close. And that's it. My first validation task is done. Let's look at the next one. So the receipt. Again, I'm going to assign it to myself. If you're a person with admin privileges, you can assign it to someone else. Currently, I don't have anyone working for me, so I can't assign it to anyone else. And the same thing, I can click on the fields and see that everything is highlighted, even though this is scanned photo, right? So the fields are not natively selectable. And you can see here on the left with the red over here, this is a confidence score. This shows you how confident the machine learning algorithm is that it extracted the correct information from the document. And you can use this as an indicator for the validator or as a trigger for the validation station. So if the confidence level is above a threshold that you are comfortable with, you can have the validation not appear at all and say, the robot just did its job perfectly. We don't need validator in the loop. And you can program this according to your requirements. Now, looking at this real quickly, we can see that the phone number was extracted, but we don't really have a phone number on our receipt. This is just a serial number of the receipt. So I can just mark it as missing and go through the rest of the fields. I can check to see if the line items are correct. Again, whatever I'm looking at is highlighted in the documents and everything is correct. Continue and save. Now I have another invoice just to make sure that this showcase runs smoothly. I am just going to approve this as well. And now that all the tasks were validated, what happens is Uipath Orchestrator triggers the Uipath robot in the background, so the unattended robot, to start another process that sits on this machine. And what it's doing is extracting the data and putting them into our ERP of choice. Now, in this case, we have two choices. One is we have our own mock ERP, which you'll see in a minute. And this will be like a general web platform, nothing complicated, just to show that we can do UI and automation with any ERP. And the other, so the invoice, will be entered into SAP. And again, this will be simple UI automation, nothing complicated, but this is just so that you will be able to see what exactly the robot will be doing. Now, all the tasks have been validated. Proceeding to the next step. And what happens, the reason that the robot hasn't started yet is because the values of the documents are above a certain threshold. So what happens is we need manager approval to process them further. So this is to simulate a corporate environment, right? So according to the value of the document that we are processing, we would need approval or not. And this is similar to what we did before with the validation station. Instead, this is a simple approval task. This is not as complicated as a validation station. And I, as an approver, as a manager approver, I can't really edit the data. I can just look through them and approve. And I'll do the rest for all of them. Assign to myself and approve. Now, once all of the tasks have been approved, the robot will pick up. It'll see that the validations, that the items were validated and approved by higher management. It'll open SAP and run through the automation to actually enter the data that was extracted from the invoice into SAP. And simple UI automation. Now, while this is running, and this is the end of our showcase, I would like to remind everybody that you can go into our booth and go into the chat and ask any questions that you have along this demo, or any questions in general that you have around UiPath and robots and automation and hyper automation. And we will be very happy to help. Now, as you're looking, we've slowed this down a bit so that I can talk while it's going on, and it just doesn't go on instantly. But in a production environment, you might want to do API integration or PAPI. And this would have been done in a fraction of a second without anyone actually knowing what was going on. But for the purpose of the showcase, we wanted to make this visual. Now, that's it. The robot just closed SAP and is going to close the rest of the items. And that concludes my showcase for today. Thank you so much for joining, and please remember to enter any questions into the chat. Take care.
Is the center enough?
Yes.
Okay.
Cosmin, it's Cosmin Panaiti, right?
Yes, Cosmin.
And the second name?
The second is Panaete, but don't worry.
Panaiti. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So you hear me well?
Perfect. Yeah,
All right.
great. Guess we'll just wait. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Aurelia. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Stuart Fennick, and it's a pleasure to host this panel session. Welcome everybody to the discussion, and this is about the impact of cloud on the pace of automation. Our aim in this session is to address some aspects of cloud and automation that are very relevant in today's context. The benefits of governments adopting cloud infrastructure to support long-term digital transformation in public services, and how organizations are responded to the disruption brought about by the recent health crisis that is all very familiar to everybody, by relying increasingly on automation facilitated by cloud capabilities. And the connection between cloud and automation really has two sides. One is related to cloud automation, the solutions that reduce the manual work in deploying and maintaining cloud-based infrastructure. And on the other, related to using cloud infrastructure for orchestrating and managing all the automation operations as a platform. So we have, as you can see on the panel, 3 guests for this discussion, and have some fantastic experiences in this area, either being on the consulting side, the client side, and the vendor side. So please allow me to introduce them at this point and to kick off our dialogue. So first of all, we have Michael Azopardi. Michael's the technology consulting leader at EY Malta. He has over 20 years of experience in strategy, architecture, software engineering, and innovation practices, working in global organizations in Switzerland and in the United States, and is obviously based here in EMEA. His experience includes end user technology, software as a service, public cloud infrastructure as a service, enterprise mobility, and security. But in particular, Michael's going to share his experience supporting government, public sector, and Malta's migration to the cloud. Then we have Cosmin Panaiti. He's the business process director at Regina Maria, the customer, and who are a leading healthcare provider in Romania, and quite a trendsetter in the market for technology adoption in its operations. Cosmin is supporting the business to achieve its objectives by identifying the best technology solutions to address the process challenges. He will share with us from his experience the adoption of cloud, especially as it relates to the COVID-19 challenges that we've been experiencing. And then last but not least, we have Daniel Rusin from Microsoft Romania. Daniel, welcome. He's the Marketing and Operations Director. He's over 17 years of experience in telco and across IT industries. Daniel's played major roles in ensuring and facilitating the synergy between marketing and operations, and also very much embarking Microsoft's business partners with an in-depth transformation process towards cloud services. One of his customers with Cosmin is here with us in the panel, so it's a great collaboration in the conversation we expect. So we hear directly both from the customer experience, but also the technology experience as well. So very much looking forward to this. Thank you so much for joining me on this conference. And with that, I'd like to kick off with some questions. We've got about half an hour for our discussion. So welcome everybody again. Michael, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Good, great. Look, let me start off, as I mentioned before, long experience in cloud, particularly with public sector. I'd love to start off with just asking you, what were the main objectives of the Malta government, and from your perspective around public sector, of the cloud strategy and the migration, and what was the achieved benefits?
So the government of Malta has been one of the main leaders in terms of adopting cloud technology, and the strategy that Malta has in terms of enabling the digitalization of its processes and functions is pretty much enabled through an underlying cloud architecture, hybrid cloud architecture. The fundamental goals are to actually digitalize the processes. We have legacy systems like any large organization. We have a fragmented landscape of different technologies, some of them more legacy. And in order to start connecting these processes, these functions, you need an underlying platform that allows you to actually transform those architectures into more structured, better decomposed solutions that allow you to integrate with legacy systems, as well as enable new systems. So fundamentally, the benefits of the cloud is that it allows us to actually surface this data, make it available across different operational pillars of the organization. And we've been using domain-driven design as a foundation to that, in order to make sure that the design of the architecture of microservices for the new solutions is actually very much tied to the actual business functions and business processes. Ultimately, the key benefit is actually enabling live events for the citizens. So instead of actually just focusing on a particular form or making access a particular piece of information, you're actually connecting these processes through a live event model. And exposing that to mobile channel, exposing that to web channel, making it more accessible, easier to use, and reducing the application of information and the data that citizens need to provide in the interaction with government. I guess we lost Stuart. So in the meantime, until Stuart joins again, the key enabling capability that we see with serving citizens, enabled through cloud and the technologies that cloud platforms actually provide to public service organizations as well as private sector. It is essentially agility, faster time to respond to the business in order to deal with regulatory changes, legislative changes, new services being offered. It's much more affording for the ability to actually outsource the development of the various components that make up the services provided by government to citizens. We're seeing the same, obviously, in private sector. Larger organizations and small organizations alike are actually leveraging cloud in order to actually transform that client experience Similar with the relationship between public sector and citizens, either business to government to business, government to citizen, or even between different organizations within government. Definitely one of the biggest advantage here is the fact that once you have a strategic cloud platform positioned for the public sector organization, then you can start leveraging capabilities like artificial intelligence, more in-depth data and analytics, and obviously automation of the underlying processes. This really lays the foundation for that citizen lifecycle experience. We would like to think this as a re-engineering of the government operations or the business operations, and in fact, the government of Malta has been issuing various call for tenders, building new capability or modernizing existing capability, always with that cloud foundation being in place. We worked with the government of Malta and also in developing the strategy for the national strategy for AI. And in that process, we looked at various functions of government and how AI can be leveraged when it comes to providing a more personalized, a more tailored, a more advanced experience to users, to citizens, be it education, be it healthcare. So there's multitude of opportunities for innovation and the digitalization of that experience, and cloud is always a foundational component of that infrastructure, that layer, in order to enable smarter solutions. So, Stuart, I see you're back. I've covered also our second point in the discussion in terms of how cloud enables the organization to actually serve its citizens, and how access to AI, data and analytics, and automation capabilities really fit into that whole story of cloud being a foundational enabler for digitalization.
Fantastic. Michael, thank you for continuing the conversation a bit longer than expected. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, sorry to the audience there, just some technical difficulties. Thank you for those insights around Malta government. Cosmin, could I turn to you now? And as we mentioned, Regina Maria, and I'd love to hear from you and to share your insights with the audience. What were the plans in terms of digitalization and cloud adoption before COVID-19? What things did you have in place as part of your cloud strategy in the first place?
Basically, our cloud strategy wasn't changed due to COVID-19, but it was very accelerated. We like to say that the plans that we had for the next couple of years happened in a couple of months.
Yeah.
So we had in plan to launch the virtual clinic, but we are going at a totally different pace. We are planning to launch it in the next year, or probably in 2 years. And we managed to launch it in basically 10 days. And in order to do that, we had to utilize the tools that we had. Fortunately for us, we had just implemented within our organization teams for the entire back office and management. And we connected practically this platform to our medical and operational system in order to be able to scale up very quickly. So what Cloud and Teams allowed us to do is to scale up very quickly the virtual clinic to, let's say, 10 to 20,000 consultation a month and 500 doctors in, we like to say, in 10 days.
Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic. And the ability for technology to reach out to that kind of audience and help them do their jobs quicker and more effectively was obviously a big benefit. I would love to hear as well, because we know that technology is only one part of the equation. People in process, like you mentioned, the doctors and the patients are also part of that as well. So how easy was the adoption in the onboarding process for doctors and patients into the new platform, and how were they able to adapt to a new way of working?
Surprisingly, it was very easy. I guess the COVID crisis and the lockdown shifted the priorities of everyone. And the doctors who were previously very concerned about giving virtual consultations and let's say the risk faced by this type of service, considered that their priority to get connected to their patient and be able to provide the service surpassed the risks associated with the virtual consultation. So we were surprised to see that due to this new environment and let's say need to find new solution, both the doctors and the patients were open to transition to the new way of doing things.
Yeah, yeah. Great.
What we did to ease the process was try to align or give them the environment as close to their previous way of working in our application. So basically, we embedded Teams and the virtual consultation within their existing infrastructure. So it was not a very important change for them. It was just another step in providing the consultation. All the rest of the process and the system remained the same.
Okay, great. I mean, thanks for sharing that. Daniel, maybe to move to you now. How do you see the role of leadership in steering digitalization? You need project sponsorship, and leadership plays a huge role in that. To successfully adopt these new technologies and also maximize the business impact, not just as a technology project or exercise. Could you share some thoughts with the audience?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, Stuart, first of all, and thank you for the question. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. So I would like to start with a survey that we have run a couple of years back, I would say. We ran a survey for business leaders, and we found out that 91% of those business leaders see digital transformation as a way of sparking innovation and finding, ways to make an organization more efficient. So 91%, which is a huge number. So everyone basically wants to go through the digital transformation as a strategy. Then 60% out of those leaders said the time is now. So you cannot delay anymore those transformational processes because you need to compete in the market. We saw also that this current pandemic accelerated this rhythm of transformation. And Cosmin actually said a little bit earlier, they have the plan, but the plan was spanning through 2 years or 3 years and so on. They pushed the plan to happen now because they needed that this technology should be available for the patients now. They needed the process to be available now. Now, we have this mindset. So this is the first step. Then we see companies that are embracing digital transformation and are really feeling excited about this transformation. And they also are shaping real and good results, like Regina Maria did. So they have a success after implementing this new process of consulting the patients. Unfortunately, we see also other companies that feel the pain of digital transformation. And mostly the biggest problem for those organizations that see, a challenge during the digital transformation is the fact that they are thinking about digital transformation as, a disruption move, a massive disruption move. And digital transformation should not be a massive disruption move, should be a journey. Should be a journey that has steps, that has people that are engaged across the organization in order to make that digital transformation a success for the organization. Now, considering those things and working with thousands of organizations over the years, and based on our experience, we work with thousands of customers through their digital transformation journey, I would say that you need two strategic directions to drive digital transformation in a company. The first and most important is the vision and the strategy. Vision is perhaps the most important one, is the one that directs successful organization toward the single North Star. So you have a goal, you know what that goal is, and then you embark throughout the entire organization, through your strategy, through your vision, towards that goal. So this is really important to set up for yourself a vision and a strategy. The second one, which is also really important, is the culture. When we see organizations that are best in driving digital transformation, they have a culture of transformation. They have people inside that organization that are unified and are working towards the same goal and the same idea. So this type of, organizations that have fostered a culture of transformation, a culture of change, a culture of innovation, they are successful to drive this digital transformation. So from my point of view, it's not a very complicated thing. You need those two things as a leader to instill in your organization vision and strategy, and of course the culture, and then you need to take it step by step. You don't have to go all in and say, I want to transform my entire organization, because in some cases you'll create disruptions, and not positive disruption. Unfortunately, that will affect the way that you are driving the rhythm of digital transformation. Take it step by step. It's a journey. Assess what you have done, see the impact, see the results, see the way that those results have affected your customers, and then take the next step and the next step and the next step. We are calling this the digital transformation journey and a continuous feedback loop, because you do something, you take the results, and then you make it better and better and better.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. And like you say, I mean, culture is a huge part of it. You're always looking for those champions that are willing to make some of the first steps. But then with that, you get the experience, and then you just build on it from there. So I think having that North Star, like you say, is really, really important about the ultimate benefits that you're going to get as you move into the cloud. I'm going to come back to you a little bit later about talking about people and skills, because I think that's a critical element to that. And I know you're going to share some thoughts there. But if I go back to Michael again, Michael from EY, you've all got the experience of working in the public sector. We heard about we heard just there from Daniel about what some of the important leadership aspects around digitalization. But I'm sure within the journey of the government public sector adopting cloud, there were some challenges and some barriers. Could you share a little bit about what you think some of them were, and maybe how they overcame them?
Absolutely, and I really love to hear Daniel's statement that this journey requires a clear vision, and it is a journey that takes you to one stage of evolution to the next. You're transforming by making those small changes, those adaptations. As I said in the beginning, cloud gives you the foundation to that, but absolutely, it's not just a technology problem. It's also a culture problem, a behavior problem, a methods problem, a leadership challenge. The experience, I've worked with public sector, but I've also spent 17 years working in the financial services industry. Large organizations always struggle in terms of actually doing that paradigm shift. You need the senior leadership, setting the vision, but also driving that transformation by allowing people to develop and leverage those capabilities. We've seen it's a fundamental shift in terms of the technology paradigm, the programming language, the use of technology, the degree of control you have on the various aspects of the underlying solution. I think one of the main challenges, particularly organizations that tend to have a long tail of legacy transformation that they need to take care of, very typical in financial services, same in public sector. The shift from cloud to from traditional systems, monolithic systems to cloud systems requires a change in the software engineering paradigm. Now, it's if you want to really maximize the capabilities, the elasticity, the flexibility, the agility that cloud gives you, you need to actually transform that traditional software engineering practice and really embrace the agile processes. And it's not easy. The mindset shift, the culture shift, the shock, the risks, because it presents new risk. But if you don't, as leaders, if you don't recognize that risk and that shift early on, it's much harder to actually take you from the traditional model to this new paradigm. So old thinking is definitely a blocker. It is a barrier. We've seen situations where people were very much where they had their batch processes close at heart, because I received the data from that system every Friday night, and I run the batch process and create a report, and I want to check it. No, you have an event-based architecture, a microservice, service-oriented architecture. You don't need to wait until Friday night for that process to actually transition the information from one system to the next. You don't need to actually have your business process tailored to the fact that the data is going only to be available at the end of the week. Yeah. So through that underlying transformation, that re-engineering process, you have to actually endorse the fact that the business processes need to evolve, and that's where you need to have a close collaboration between the process owners, the business stakeholders, and the various owners of the systems, because in order to maximize the value that you're obtaining through this journey, you have to really let go on some of the things that you've done in the past.
Like you say, a huge part of this is a cultural shift in terms of adopting cloud, and the adoption of agile methodologies is part of that. Thank you for sharing that. Cosmin, if I come back to you, what benefits do you have today? You talked a lot about implementing this new system, a lot about using real-time collaboration and the video conferencing and the tools that were there as part of Teams. What benefits do you have today that you didn't even consider at the beginning?
Well, first of all, we are surprised to see that by opening the virtual clinic, we gain access to a whole new category of patients. We have patients from geographic regions that we were not present in, even patients from abroad. I mean, we have Romanians who live abroad, but even foreigners who are seeking doctors from our hospitals and seeking interventions in our hospitals, and were able to contact their doctor and make a first appointment and be able to decide if they want to come to this hospital or not. Second of all the developments that we made for the virtual clinic, we very easily expanded to the physical consultation. For example, online appointments, ability to upload your medical file, automatic issuing of invoicing and billing, and so on. All these were very easily transported to our entire business. So basically, our entire digital experience has been enriched by this pilot that we've done with the virtual clinic. Coming back to your previous question regarding the barrier in place of adopting cloud and virtual and digital services, I think particularly in the public sector, the regulatory environment is one of the most important breaks that comes in implementing this. For example, in our case, virtual consultation were not clearly defined as a medical service in Romania. We have now, till the end of the year, let's say, bypass of the law that allows us to provide this service. But for long term, the regulatory environment usually is behind the practice. And this happens in the entire virtualization or digital services. If you ask about cloud, let's say, where data stands is a major issue regarding national boundaries and so on. Electronic signature needs to be clearly defined and so on. For us in medical services, we still want a clear definition of virtual consultations in the legislation. So I think at this point, the regulatory environment needs to catch up with the practice.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. It's always very interesting to see how there's a need in the market. You're hearing from the patients and the doctors the criticality of the services that are required, even to the point where you're reaching out to other people that you might not have touched before, like you highlight, but at the same time being very conscious about the regulatory environment that's there and the need for this to continually to sort of work in partnership. Otherwise, It's not that regulations are not important, they are, but they need to also be moving at a pace where you get the results you need for delivering the services to the community. Very interesting to hear. Daniel, coming back to you as well, the impact of accelerated digitalization is a reality, not just for public sector, not just for healthcare, although that's probably very front of mind, but every industry, in Romania, companies need to be not only the ones that quickly adapt to the best technologies, but also to develop their own digital capabilities within themselves. Do you think you have already noticed an increased appetite among companies for the development of employee skills? You talked a lot about, setting a North Star, people moving along that journey, the cultural aspect, but some people might not have those skills today. They may be, just skills in legacy platforms or legacy technologies. So I'd love to hear, your experience of how they're approaching this, not just within public sector healthcare, but across any industries. What's your thoughts there?
Yes, Stuart, thank you for the question. Absolutely. So in short, the answer is absolutely. Now, allow me to elaborate a little bit. We define these new days that we are living like transformational days, like tech intensity days, because everywhere we look, we are surrounded by technology. Even in our personal life, we have phones, we have laptops, we have digital stuff around the house. Now, in this, tech intensity world, we have two major components. One is the technology, that we are using to drive the digital transformation within our companies. And the second one, which is really, really important, that it's enabling the digital transformation, is the digital skills. You cannot have a successful digital transformation within your company if you do not have the right digital skills within that company. We ran a survey last year with IDC in the Romanian market to understand exactly what is happening in terms of digitalization of the current business environment. We saw the companies that are adopting transformation and that are adopting technology, they have two things that are really important. The first one that we have talked a little bit about, the strategy, about the culture. And the second one, they have the people ready to adopt and drive their own technology. It's not just the fact that you can buy something off the shelf. Regina Maria didn't do that. They had, some technology that Microsoft was providing, that other partners were providing to them, but they built that technology within their own company. They adapted to fit their own needs, their customer needs, their own personal system. And that needs to happen within the company, and that needs to have, the digital skill within that company. Now, coming back to the current environment, what we have seen through the summer, we have run also some surveys using our own platform. You know that LinkedIn is part of Microsoft currently, that GitHub is part of Microsoft currently. So we use all those external platforms that are providing learning platform for our customers, and we see a tremendous increase in the last period of time. For example, Microsoft Learn has grew 475% this May versus last May. LinkedIn Learning, which is providing a very extensive set of trainings and skills, it's growing 400% this year versus last year. And GitHub, which is meant or built towards more a developer ecosystem, it's growing 900% in terms of, accessing the learning and the trainings paths that are available there. So we see that absolutely the companies and especially the individuals find this period of time really important for them to grow and develop new set of skills that will enable first of them themselves to adapt properly to the current environment, and then empower the companies that are working for to accelerate their digital transformational skills. So this is an absolutely amazing experience that we are seeing right now. And also it is really important to comprehend that you having at your disposal those digital platforms that you can use to improve your skills, you can do it in your own pace. You can do it, in the weekends, you can do it in the afternoons, you can do it during your work hours, if you find the time to do that, because you have this availability to improve your skills whenever you have the time to do that. So this is also this kind of flexibility that this digital platform is providing to you is really important. You don't have, to plan to go to a specific room to spend 8 hours in a desk in order to go to a certain training, in order to gain a certification. So this is really impactful, the way that people are consuming those trainings, are consuming learning, and are impactful the way that they're learning and gaining certification. Now, I want to speak a little bit also from the Microsoft perspective. Sorry, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, no, carry on. Maybe as you just think about weaving that in, may I add, I'd love to hear your comments, not just about only, maybe we think when it's cloud automation and all of these tools, that it's just a technical environment, technical people that are learning new skills. But I'd love to also hear about, the employees from the non-tech functions, how their knowledge is, how much their knowledge do you think is essential for them to have in order to stay relevant? So maybe as you're talking about, fantastic to hear these platforms that you just mentioned, but if you could just finish off that answer, but do it in a way such as both technical and non-technical, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yes, it's a valuable, segue. Because not only the technical people are developing this set of skills. Again, those platforms that I have shared a little bit earlier are mostly towards the technical people within an organization. But LinkedIn has numerous types of study, numerous types of learning tracks. If you want to develop your marketing skills, if you want to develop your sales skills, if you want to, touch on your growth mindset, for example, or mindfulness in some particular area, you have the resources there to develop the skills. Now, I want to add a little bit more on this, learning practices within an organization. And I truly believe that non-technical employees should have a minimum set of trainings that will enable them to work with the new digital tools at their disposal. And we see an example that Cosmin, and I say we always do Cosmin because we are very close working in these projects. We see medics that were, have to use this new digital platform. And if we didn't do the trainings before about, learning to use this new digital platform like Microsoft Teams, then for them, this transition could be a little bit harder. So having the knowledge, having the tools already in place and allowing companies like Microsoft or Microsoft partners to go and help your employees to gain knowledge to use these new digital skills that you have put in place is really important for every company. Doesn't matter the role or the position that a certain employee is. We can adapt the training specifically for a certain job, specifically for a certain role to gain the best out of any digital tool. And I can speak on behalf of Microsoft and Microsoft partners, but it's the same throughout the technology stack. We saw earlier a demo made by Uipath, So it's not very difficult, but you need to do a little bit of training in order to make sure that you are able to use that digital tool to the full extent and to the full benefit for your organization and for yourself. So I highly think that every individual should be able to have the proper tools and should be able to have the proper training in order to gain the best benefits out of those tools that are implementing. And I think this is the successful way towards the digital transformation.
Yeah, I think we all know the change and the demand that's been placed on everybody, working, non-working, to have flexibility in your work-life balance. It's a fantastic opportunity, and it's amazing to get access to these kind of platforms to weave that into your sort of lifestyle and your work-life balance. And I guess it's down to being empowered to be able to use them when you need, and then to continue to grow your skills. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Michael, coming to you, I'm starting to shift about, we've talked a little bit about benefits adopting cloud. We've talked a little bit about some of the use cases, particularly in public sector and also then in healthcare, some things around culture and skilling. When you start looking towards the future and beyond where we are today, what aspects need to be considered when implementing a cloud strategy at a government level? You've talked about some of the successes with Malta, but how do you envisage, government more holistically around the public services and implementing a cloud strategy, particularly around things like legislation and sort of regulatory considerations as well that, Cosmin mentioned just a little bit earlier also?
So there are a number of aspects. We were just seeing the the start of this of this journey. Right? We've seen that transformation happening in the 80s with certain data processing, and in the 90s again with the advent of the internet. This journey that has started definitely requires some foundational decisions. Positioning cloud as one of the pillars of those enabling elements is and putting cloud choice, cloud first as a choice in terms of the platform is important. We've seen it also. The European Commission has, with the DigiDigit program, is doing that. However, it's not the only thing that needs to be in place. Similar to what we've seen in the private sector, you need to have the right frameworks in place, and the right governance structure to ensure that you have coherency in terms of meeting the legislative requirements, the regulatory requirements, the security requirements. For example, GDPR has been at the top of the agenda on a number of discussions. We are constantly faced with situations, and I'm sure Cosmin sees that, that one entity owns a particular set of data and the other entity owns another set of data, and there's this dependency, but there are restrictions in terms of sharing that information, even when you are actually trying to provide that service to the business user, to the citizen, etc. So having those frameworks in place is really fundamental. We've developed a cloud controls framework that brings together the security best practices from ISO standards and other standards in the industry, the Cloud Security Alliance, best practices from technology providers like Microsoft, as well as regulatory considerations into one single framework. And in the work that we did in terms of enabling this agile journey, we actually integrated that framework as part of an end-to-end life cycle from requirements to business process analysis to specification and DevOps. Right. So those elements are not an afterthought that you need to check around compliance, or a barrier that hinders you in terms of doing the right steps, but really integrating that into the whole design process. So that framework is really one of the first that we've developed and applied in this particular context, particularly to deal with the kind of constraints and blockers, mental blockers that organizations might face. One important element that we're seeing is the creation of digital innovation and digital transformation hubs. This is really an enabler to have knowledge, be it training on change of thinking, design thinking processes, process redesign activities. So the business stakeholders are actually part of that process of redesigning and reinventing that citizen experience, but also giving access to best practices, expertise, and resources. Prototyping is really as part of that agile process, as part of the journey, is really also important. So creating an environment where you encourage innovation by allowing sandboxing of prototyping and prototyping activities is important. Malta, for example, over the recent years have introduced legislation specifically around virtual financial assets in order to actually support the adoption of digital ledger technologies. And there is an agency, the MDIA, which enables that legislative transformation by really bringing the thinking and best practices to the government entities, and then transform the legislation accordingly.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm really keen to hear as well from Cosmin about the areas that he's thinking about that would be, what are the new areas in which you plan to adopt cloud computing, and maybe why, particularly around automations going forward after the success of your virtual client experience and your virtual clinic experience.
So we're practically shifting our entire client-facing infrastructure towards the cloud. Why? Because we need very rapid, let's say, scale up. And in order to do this internally, it's very expensive and it doesn't make sense. So we're planning to move our CRM in the cloud. We're moving our customer account creation and using services from the cloud, such as facial recognition combined with ID scanning and so on. We're implementing chatbots and both in writing and on voice. And even our main applications, such as stock management, we're starting to moving toward the cloud. Why? Because it's much more flexible. And I think in the next couple of years, everything that need expanding or reducing very rapidly will move to this type of virtual infrastructure. It doesn't make sense to buy your own servers. For example, in our case, if we were able to provide video and audio infrastructure for the volume of consultation, 10,000 consultations per month, I don't know how much we would have taken us. We are to scale our CRM, for example, to the customer service, call center, sales teams, and marketing. For the volumes that we are increasing to 20% per year, it doesn't make sense to do it internally. And we're shifting this entire infrastructure towards cloud.
Okay. Thank you for sharing those thoughts about how you're thinking about the future. Obviously, you've seen some great benefits from cloud already, and your journey is continuing. I'd just like to say at this point, very much, I think our time is pretty much wrapping up here. A big thank you to Michael, to Cosmin, and also to Daniel. Really appreciate the insights you shared. I would just say at this point, just some quick conclusions from my side is we've seen organizations both in public sector and healthcare adjust extremely quickly to the challenges we've had over the last couple of months. And cloud and automation has been an intrinsic foundational platform for adjusting to that. I think we've seen a very accelerated and compressed adoption of cloud with success. We've also heard how the regulations are an important part of this, and that governance frameworks and approaches around cloud controls are an important element, but also that, it's a two-way street here, and that regulation plus technology needs to work together. And then, Daniel highlighted very strongly about setting that North Star, setting and identifying the champions associated with the cloud strategy, and that culture is an incredibly important part. It's not just about the technology, it's the people in the process. And these flexible platforms like GitHub, LinkedIn, and others are a great environment for flexibly learning new skills. So again, thank you, Michael, Cosmin, and Daniel for joining us in the audience. To everybody in the audience, thank you for tuning in, and I hope that was of great value to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the opportunities to hear from automation professionals and interact with the teams on the platform channels. This is our last session of this year's conference. The topics we want to tackle now will circle back to some of the discussions from the beginning of the conference regarding the application and the implications of automation in areas beyond the business world, which could trigger a society-wide transformation. For this, we have invited at the virtual table guests that inspired us with their work in advancing ideas and new technologies. I will first introduce the guests to this panel. Welcome, Marco, Răzvan, and Alin. Marco is a professor. Hello. Do you hear me?
Hey.
Hi. Marco is a professor of computer science who took his vocation to a new level and actively advocates the need to transform the educational system, enabling the next generation to succeed in a fast-paced, changing environment. He is also the CEO of Interact Ideas, consultant in education, and coordinator of many EdTech projects with relevant institutions. And Marco will be exchanging ideas about technology in education and education through technologies. Also from the academic background, we have Răzvan Ion, who came to meet virtually after reading an intriguing title, The Bucharest Biennale to be Curated by AI. So we reached out to him to understand more how the job of a curator can be automated and what does it mean for the interpretation of creativity. With a wide variety of teaching experience on his CV, such as University of California, Lisbon University, Central University of New York, University of London, and Sofia University, Răzvan is also a lecturer, author, and tech entrepreneur. And also, we challenge Alin Iftemi, to join us in this panel as a representative of a startup that builds the value in the ecosystem with another emerging technology, blockchain. As a tech entrepreneur with a dedicated declared passion for programming, Alin and his team created Modex, a tech startup that developed the first smart contract marketplace in the world. They also partnered with their technology with RPA to further enhance security and traceability of transactions, and they are out to solve more complex issues, as we will see from some examples of case studies. Thank you all for accepting the invitation to this panel. It will be a very interesting discussion. And I would kick the conversation with asking Marco, what do you see differently in education needs these days? And how do you consider, which do you consider to be the main pillars of the educational system, which will be able to support this transformation that we are talking these days?
Hello, Aurelia. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here today discussing with Răzvan and Alin. Concerning education, I think that right now we have a huge problem in education nowadays. If we look to all the transformation that is happening outside of school, my great concern is that education today is not able to answer the main challenge and not able to prepare for the opportunities that are being created. Saying this, the question here, if you look to education, we can see that almost nothing changed in education. I will not say only in the last decades, but if you take a look when the first industrial revolution and the way that school was designed, of course, we have different transformations. We have different learning theories and so on. But if you go inside of a school and you look at the school as a building and you look at the school as the way that is organized, even inside of the classroom, there is a lot of things that need to be changed. Mainly in the times that we are looking about all these kinds of change, and we can clearly see that we are losing our last exclusivity as human beings, that is in terms of intelligence. So nowadays is not only technology that is replacing the human muscle, but is also replaced in terms of our capabilities that we consider as unique in terms of our intelligence. So the pillars that support education in the last decades, they are not able to answer all this challenge. Of course, there is traditional things that we cannot just put aside because they are keeping and really need to be in terms of the defined educational systems. We know that our students, they need to learning to know, learning to be, learning to live together. But the main question today is a question of opportunity. In the last decades, if a school was not able to well prepare a young person, there was a lot of jobs that don't need this high level of competence, and they will be, let's say, introduced in terms of this. But nowadays, what we are looking is that these kind of jobs, they are being wiped out. So if the schools don't prepare the students with the skills that really need in terms of all this, and mainly the digital transformation, what will be happen to all this young students. For example, we can take what Harari says, that with this transformation, we are creating what could be a useless class. So no, it's not a question of surviving, it's a question that you are not useful anymore, because we have these smart and intelligent systems that they can easily replace what they used to be, this kind of jobs. So I think one of the most important pillars in education today is opportunity, equal opportunity for everybody in the context that we are living today.
Making level. I know you are also involved in the policy making level. What has to change for the Educational Act to generate value to all stakeholders?
One of the questions in terms of policy making and in terms of the different stakeholders which are looking today is that the educational system need more and more input for different stakeholders and not the usual one in terms of the way that they design education. So it's very important that we have this input and this feedback so school can open and not be hermetic and closed for the outside. We know that the educational systems, they are very difficult in terms of adapt. Normally, I give this metaphor. I see the educational system as these big ships, these oil tankers. If you want to make a change in your path, is very difficult. And we need small boats, the fast ones, that really can be and adapt about what are the needs. So more interface between external stakeholders and the schools. The schools need to open themselves in terms of what happened of the external context. And this is something that normally is being done, but the true change in education happens inside of the classroom, in the relationship between student and student, in the relationship between teacher and student. And the main guide in terms of education is one thing that is called curriculum. And curriculum is about the contents, is about the pedagogy, is about the strategies, about the process. So you could have lots of very interesting initiatives and projects between external stakeholders, but if one thing doesn't change, and that is the curriculum, maybe we will only impact, let's say 10 or 5% of the students. And as I said before, one of the pillars should be opportunity. So this is something that needs more to be mandatory than only an option. And I think we need, as I was saying, more of this, but at the same time, really change what is important.
Taking what you said regarding changing the curricula, what are the challenges you came across when advocating for introducing AI in the classroom?
I put this in different levels. One level is what we call university education. I'm being advocated the need in pre-university education, mainly in the K-12 educational system. We know that AI is really changing our lives. Not only AI, we are living something like a perfect storm and other different technologies, IoT, quantum computing, big data, on all this blockchain also. And what happens is when this is integrated in our lives, we don't call it anymore artificial intelligence. It's just another technology that we are using. If you are looking at our smartphone, it is completely full of AI and all the text associated with AI. The question here is most of the people are using that and they don't have any clue about what is happening. And these intelligent systems, they are taking decisions in behalf of us, and we really don't understand what is happening there. Another question when we talk about artificial intelligence and education, we have mainly three different topics. We have one is about learning AI, and this is the need of the K-12 educational systems to have options, courses that are related with AI. So the future engineers of AI are already starting to get some preparation, not only AI, in the other technologies I was saying. Another topic is learning for AI. So we have to prepare our students to live in a world that will be very impacted by AI. And another topic is learning with AI. So this is all the platforms and the tools that are developed using these technologies associated with AI, machine learning, and so on. And what we are seeing is most of these technologies for learning with AI that will be integrated in the learning and in teaching process, they are supported in the old pedagogical process and in the old pedagogical strategies. So they mainly just pick up the student, put them in front of a screen, put them a headphone, and we have this black box that is deciding the path, the learning path for the students. And we need AI to transform education and not AI to augment the old school. That is the main topics that I'm advocating in terms of AI in education.
Thank you, Marco. I would move now to art, and I would ask Răzvan, how open is the art field to use automation on one hand, and how much is technology part of the art education curriculum?
Now, first of all, let me say I deeply apologize if I'm not quite keen on my explanation because it's I have a fever, but I still wanted to be part of this excellent conference. And again, congratulating the people in Bucharest for doing this fantastic job. I do not agree with the fact AI should not augment the classical education. I mean, as a professor, and I was a professor in different parts of the world, I think all technology should augment the classic type. So for me, for example, now I'm writing a thesis which is called augmented education. So basically, we should use technology inside of the classical type of education because we cannot change it. I mean, even if we want to, I mean, the education is different. Here in Vienna, it's a type of education. In Bucharest, it's a different type of education, or in Helsinki. But we should augment this type of education with more. So mixing somehow, so people will come more keen to the idea of education, the young people. And I think sometimes as a professor, we forget about our students. We just think about what we want to do. And let's say art give us the opportunity not to have an end point. We work on Jarvis, the first AI curator in the history, because we do not have an end. We don't need to have a successful product at the end. We just propose academical models who leads to a practical model in time. So basically, now we have an AI who learns from us. So it's a very interesting exchange. And my team, because it's not me, it's my team. I would never been able to do this on myself. Our CTO, Răzvan Ionescu, our COO, which is Bogdan Matei, and some other people which are together in this team, what we try to is to progress together with Jarvis, with our AI. So basically, we don't face an automation project, we face a learning project. We learn from Jarvis, Jarvis learns from us. So Jarvis can curate anything. I mean, 20 years ago, I remember people doesn't even know what a curator was. Didn't know what a curator was. Now I see everything is curated. Even this conference is curated. Maybe Jarvis will curate the next edition of this EY conference. So all these things learn us to be more human. I think AI learns us to be more human. So education should be augmented, but by what we do and not trying to change it radically. Of course, it's a need of radical change of education, but we cannot do it.
I would actually ask you, what is the difference do you see between software that produces art and software that curates it? I think it would be interesting for more of a business community that are participating to this conference to understand. And also, how do you see which one is more easily accepted by humans?
That's a very extensive question.
I know.
It will take me an hour. I mean, imagine in my MA, people learns how to be a curator for 3 years. So how long do you have to explain? Now, the difference is between an AI curator and an art producer, let's say, an artist. It's the same difference like in humans. A curator, it's the people who organize, write the concept, organize the exhibition, put everything together inside the concept, choose the artist, and so on. And the artist is the producer, let's say, of the artwork. So I think there is no acceptance for. We cannot call acceptance to anything at this moment. Do you hear me? Because I can't see you anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I wanted to enhance the question also. How do you see the art community? How do you plan to encourage the art community to accept the adoption of such technologies?
It's the same like the rest of the society. It's the same questions. I saw some of your esteemed guests today and yesterday talking about the people who says, "Oh, we will lose our job, AI coming to us," but people doesn't know the difference between AI general and AI narrow. So the fact is, nobody lose anything. Actually, we augment our power to choose, create, and acknowledge the world around us. It's not easy. I mean, let's face it. When we announced the Jarvis, we had like, I don't know, 58 or 60 publications around the world written exclusively about Jarvis, and it was a big boom for us. But the second thing, it's an art community, because it's like entire society responded in a very weird way. I mean, they are afraid their jobs will be in jeopardy, their jobs, I mean, how we will work with. But think and imagine the fact how we evolve because artificial intelligence. Let's put it this way. Jarvis was initially a butler, yes? I mean, the people who are listening to us, they will understand easily this. If you remember the comic books from our childhood, who liked comic books? If not the movies of Iron Man. Jarvis was initially a butler, a social category which we tend to miss in our travel through life. Yeah? So slowly, in comic books, in films, and in everything, Jarvis becomes an AI. The butler disappears, and AI becomes the protector of humankind. So I think, from my point of view, sounds a little bit pathetic, but I think artificial intelligence now it's meant to protect the humankind, not to attack the humankind.
Thank you, Razvan. I would also move to Alin and ask him maybe some basic question. What is your definition of blockchain, and what do you see as the most common misconceptions when it comes about this technology?
Thank you very much. I believe the most common misconceptions about blockchain are blockchain is slow. Blockchain can create huge loss of money if you're not experienced in trading. Blockchain can be used to deal, I don't know, illegal products. These are the most misconceptions about a technology, which actually it's an infrastructure, and it's a huge confusion between what is an infrastructure and what is an application or a service which use that particular infrastructure. Almost everybody in the last 3-4 years they have confused blockchain with cryptocurrencies, which somehow it's normal because cryptocurrencies were actually the first applications using the blockchain technology. So if we have to do a parallel, I would say that internet might be the infrastructure, and I don't know, email or web applications might be services or applications which are using this infrastructure. In the same way, blockchain is a technology, and the cryptocurrencies, as well as many other products or software products, are applications which use this piece of tech.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah.
In my opinion, blockchain is a technology which brings a lot of concepts about trust. Blockchain is a technology which enables several parties to communicate, to participate in operating different software products. But most important thing about blockchain is the fact that it brings immutability, security, transparency to all the data and all the flows that we are using in daily activities in software products. Obviously not now in daily activities, but hopefully soon enough. It's the technology which basically offer us the possibility to be transparent to each other, to cooperate one with each other, but in the same time in a very secure environment.
Thank you. Can you give some example of use cases that you have seen for blockchain in art or education?
In education, a very good application would be by storing the historical activities of a student in the blockchain. Why not storing the certificate or the diploma? In which case we could avoid all these scenarios where some people, after one night, they suddenly become student of a reputed university. In art, it's even simpler. Art is subject to copyright. Art is subject of innovative ideas, of expressing feelings, and somehow it's important to have a log, an immutable log of who was the first to have such idea. So I would use blockchain to let's say store schemes, maybe drawings, maybe sounds, or whatever is considered art, in order just to clarify who was maybe the first in having an innovative idea in this domain. But blockchain technology, it's applicable in many ways, in many domains. So these are just some thoughts.
Talking about the skills needed to work
May
with...
I say?
Yeah,
No,
go.
sorry.
Yes,
Sorry.
of course.
No,
Yes,
I just
Razvan,
wanted
please.
to say because I just discovered the fact just before this intervention, me and Aline, we've been together again and again. It seems like it's a pattern in these two, in this kind of conferences. So I've been with Aline in Mindchain. So we discussed about blockchain, AI, and art. So I would like to advise everyone who wants to see how blockchain, AI, and art is working. It's a very old already piece of art is called Plantoid. And Plantoid was made by an Italian woman, an Italian artist, and she did a fantastic job with Plantoid, showing us how blockchain, AI, and art can work together.
Thank you, Razvan. I wanted to ask Aline, because we talk about skills, and I wanted to ask him how people learn about the skills needed to work with blockchain, and how do you see your role in educating the market?
Blockchain, it's a backend technology, so it's not a technology which we all have to learn. You don't have to learn it necessarily. It's important to know that the software product you are using, it's based on blockchain technology, so maybe you have a little bit of more trust. But when it comes to learning the technology, this is mostly a technical job. It belongs to programmers. If you want to learn about blockchain, you have several options. First of all, it would be to search on Google. How do I start learn about blockchain? I'm a fan of this technology, but I also like to teach, and I'm getting personally involved in a lot of teaching activities. Our company has a partnership with Romanian Polytechnica, which is a technical university, where we also have a master class in teaching blockchain to students. We also partner up with Economic Academy in Romania, where we will have some teachings about blockchain as well, but not only. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing my best to be to spread the knowledge as much as possible. But altogether, this technology is to be learned by developers, not by regular users.
Thank you. I would ask a question to all of you. Which are the skills that we consider most relevant for the future, and how can these skills can be developed? Maybe we start with you, Marco. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So there is different kind of skills, and I was listening to Razvan, and there was one thing that I agree with him. So we had pick up in terms of AI and transformed it as augmented intelligence, or augmented our intelligence. So this we have to look at AI and how it can be used in terms of help us solve all the huge problems that we are facing today. And in terms of competence, that's nowadays we are talking so much about soft skills and all the social and the human skills that will make the difference between we and all these machines that are being built. And if we pay attention in terms of education, we have been talking a lot about the 21st century competences. And we sometimes forget that we are already in the 2020 year, okay? And we keep talking that we need to integrate the 21st century competence in educational system. That should be something that should not be talking right now, because it should be transparent. And we talk about creativity, we talk about collaboration, I talk about complex problem solving, we are talking about communication, and of course we need our students to be apply in terms of curiosity also, and in terms of resilience, because the things that we have and that were easily understood for us as a generation, we are mainly the last generation that will know what is the meaning of a job for a life. We are maybe the last generation that will know what offline means. So once again, and that's the point that I don't agree with Razvan, is that the classic education and the classic educational systems are not the answer for the needs and the challenge of today. And once again, and I say this repeatedly, only with curriculum transformation we can change the educational systems in the way that they provide the competence and the skills that the students need today. And of course, this is something from external stakeholders in terms of schools. Nowadays, no one could ask you about your academic degree. They just want to know what you can do, what the things that you learn. So the idea that you just go for school at the age of 6, and then you go make all your pathway, and then you take an academic degree, and that is enough because you're going to have a job for a life and maybe a family and a dog and all these kind of things. It is changed rapidly. And that's why I advocate that's really needed in terms of transformation. Of course, this kind of competence and frameworks, they have been updated faster than ever, because things are happening faster than ever. So this is a question in terms of discussion, and this is a passion in terms of discussion, and maybe we could have another day just to discuss in terms of the educational needs.
Correct.
But
correct.
for me, the key competence and skill that the students need today.
Thank you, Marco. Razvan, what is your view on the skills for the future?
Marco is right. This is for another day. I mean, probably I can debate with him for a very long time about what we can do. But essentially, me and Marco, we have the same perception of the system. The system should be changed. It doesn't matter in his... I mean, basically, we talk about the same thing. The educational system should be changed, and the academical system should be changed. In a way in Romania, in another way in Helsinki. in Finland, because if you look at, I mean, what we need to see is how people perceive things. If we think about how Finnish people perceive education and how Bulgarian people perceive education, so what we can do, and people will praise us, is to do an excellent job trying to see what they need. And from my point of view, technology, it's about what we need. It's not about what we want to do. Then, of course, you can invent an AI who bombs countries, but on the other hand, we can invent an AI to drive, I don't know, a plane to rocket to Mars. So it depends how you see things.
Very interesting. Very interesting point. I would also ask Aline about the skills of the future. How do you see them from the entrepreneur and the developer perspective?
I would like to make a short comparison. In my country, sometimes winter comes earlier. Let's say it snows in November, and every time the politician says it got them under surprise. It happens to say the same thing when the first snow comes in February. So I believe the same thing happened with education today. Of course, it was accelerated, the opinion, by this pandemic situation. But I believe that in the next few years, we have to be very serious about training our kids how to learn for themselves. Because the stuff which is taught in school, it's underrated. It's old school already. There are a lot of technologies, and not only technologies, a lot of researches, a lot of new things to be learned, which are coming out there in one day, which more than they study in 12 years. So we have to be ready to teach our kids how to learn and educate themselves in order to be able to choose their own way to these vast possibilities of education which are out there. That's what I believe.
Thank you. I think this is very interesting that you brought this into discussion, because during this lockdown, we all realized that kids actually, they are already working with all the tools that we worked only in the, after graduating. They already know to connect to Microsoft Teams and to work in PowerPoint and so on. Indeed, this is fast tracking. I would ask a last question to all of you. What legacy do you want to create through your work? Just to be in the same line with the whole theme of the conference. So, Marco, I would invite you first.
It's not a question of legacy. It is mainly in terms of the ideas that I advocate, and I think that they need to be applied in terms, for example, what Aline was saying, more important than everything, and I work with students every day, is I want them to be able to learn by themselves. So they have to know. If you go again in terms of education, and in terms that you access information nowadays, and not the way that you access information nowadays, because this become with the advent of internet, the way that all this information is available, and the way that you access the type of information that allows you to create knowledge, and from then allow us to make in terms of a difference. Once again, I will go back for the first question that you gave me, is a question of opportunity. And when I say in question of opportunity, there is lots of other things that are connected with this. It's not only the educational system. We know that most of European countries, they are supported in terms of public educational systems that have as a major goal to give opportunity to all the students. But this is more deeper. This is a question of social context, is a question of economical context. And in my way, what I really like is all the students, doesn't matter the school or the country that live, they have the opportunity to be prepared for the challenge of today, so they can be able to grab the opportunities of today and not be train and prepare for what was the past. So what worked for me as a student will not work for my students. And I think this is the message that I really like to let in terms of the work that I develop.
Thank you, Marco. Răzvan, from your perspective?
Well, I don't know. I mean, thank you for the question. I never thought about my legacy. So, you know, now I'm looking back and I feel old. I mean, when you see you are beginning to have 51 years old, it's different from 30 for sure. So I don't want my students to be prepared for tomorrow, for today, for yesterday, for, I don't know, for March, for Moon, for, I don't want my students to be prepared for anything. I want my students to be able exactly to do what I'm teaching, critical thinking. So I hope where I was in my life, and I was living in many places and doing many things in my life, not only teaching, I think it's very important to challenge people to think, to challenge people to creative thinking. And I strongly believe it's exactly what you do in this conference. I mean, you make people think in another way, creative thinking. I mean, what can we do with what we have? I don't want to think about past, future. I don't even know what future is. Yesterday, Vienna was a very empty city. Today, Vienna, it's 1,000 empty from COVID, I mean, and today it's 1,000 cases. So I don't know what's the future. So how do I prepare people for today, tomorrow, or yesterday? Maybe I can just raise some questions. And I think this is our thing to do with what we do, even now, right now in this conference, raising questions, making people to think in a different way, and critical thinking is extremely important. So I hope when people will mention me in the future, if that will happen, to mention me in the way of this guy just made us critical thinking.
Thank you. Indeed, it raises some questions for for all of us. Aline, the same question for you.
Legacy, it sounds like something which is looking in the past, and I like to believe that us humans, we are always looking forward. We are all, our species, a very curious one, and this curiosity is actually what drives us to innovation and to do more and more and more. In my opinion, I think we should focus on what's coming next, and we should leave to our kids to see if we were able to do something good or bad, and they should judge if our legacy, if there is one, is good of anything.
Thank you. Any last thought from you on the overall what you heard in the conference, or knowing that it is a panel with a mix of experiences and ideas, and it's probably we can continue as you also mentioned, Răzvan, to debate maybe one day or more for any of the topics.
But that's the main point. This is, I mean, this is why I acknowledge the team of EY and the technical team and everybody who put this together, because putting this kind of thing together is just what we need right now. I mean, we need to keep fresh, to keep our mind. Honestly, 25%, I just wrote today, of the population of the world are depressive because of the pandemic. We have to do something. I mean, of course, we are sick about teaching for 8-9 months online. I mean, but let's move, let's do something, let's solve the problem. Our grandfathers and grandmothers solved the problem 100 years ago, so we can do it. I mean, I think we have to end with Pink Floyd.
Yes. I wanted to thank you for participating in this panel, and I know you have a lot of ideas to share, and I look forward to see your posts in media. I noticed you are very active in media also. I think I wanted to thank you for contributing to this mission of exploring the art of the possible, and also how automation can contribute and can connect to various themes around education, around art, innovation, and of course, combining with new emerging technologies like blockchain to move forward in exactly this idea that we wanted to encourage all the participants to act as we need to move forward. Thank you for your participation, and I will be back in 2 minutes with the closing. Thank you.
Thank you, Aurelia. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Hello, and I wanted to say a few words at the end of the conference, at the end of these 2 days, because I think to continue in the same the direction as the panel before, I think what we did in this conference, linking different perspectives, truly illustrates the value of the human spirit when it comes to creation of long-term value. The way we pick elements from our surrounding and the way we are able to apply a vision to connect with other pieces and the way that they haven't been done before, I think this is indeed the benefit it brings to the entire community or society at large. And this is the power of the human. I know there were some visionary people in history before us from which we are learning. I wanted to give you some examples, some interesting examples. In 1926, Nikola Tesla was saying that humans will communicate with each other instantly, irrespective of distance, and will be able to hear and see each other to devices so small that will be carried in the vest pocket. And for his time, that was science fiction. For our time, we cannot imagine our lives without our smartphones. Leonardo da Vinci is famous for combining elements from art, design, science, philosophy, and engineering to design projects and instruments which were revolutionary for his time. And some of them were even 400 years ahead of their time. His Vitruvian Man, which we adapted into Vitruvian Robot behind me, is one of the many works that survived the test of time, and I think it's part of his legacy. And we do not dare, of course, to say we are visionaries. We can, however, learn from them and bring our contribution to the legacy of knowledge sharing. There is no doubt that automation and AI will continue to increase presence in our society, and instead of having a strong for or against when it comes to their influence on our lives, I believe it is our duty to apply, as Razvan mentioned, critical thinking and advance digitalization in a way that it will build a sound legacy for innovation that our future generation will be able to continue building on, just like we did on the ones before us. And as we reach the end of the 2 days ACT event, I would like to leave you with some key takeaways. First, Developing and implementing policies that advance technology in society requires a strong collaboration between governments, businesses, and citizens. And automation and AI-related frameworks and policies will help stakeholders maximize the value, but in the same time minimizing the risks which we are seeing in such technologies. Second, businesses can generate and can create long-term value by connecting their purpose to the digital needs of the stakeholders and looking at all stakeholders, as I mentioned earlier. Employees that need better enablers for their work to allow them to develop. Customers that need the end-to-end seamless user experience. Suppliers that need visibility and advanced collaboration tools. Shareholders that need new revenue-generating models, and of course, authorities that need faster process for collecting taxes so that they can further invest in improvements in communities. By reverse engineering some of the current models, I think organizations can embed automation and AI to put together enhanced models. And then scale up would happen naturally because having digital at core sets the mindset for the value creation. And the third point, connecting automation and AI to diverse themes around us, as we did today with art, with education, will allow us to go beyond our comfort zone. And skills, as mentioned before, like experiment, courage to experiment, resilience, curiosity, emotional intelligence, are equally important to drive transformation, even more important sometimes than technology itself. So adapting education to the digital and human competencies required to progress, I think it's a must for our society. With these messages in mind, I now want to thank you to our speakers for the openness to share their knowledge and experience. I want to thank our partners, Uipath and Blue Prism, for their involvement in organizing the event. Also to the partners Arrogant Films, who put our vision in a beautiful form of art, in dance. And of course, to all of you, that you had the curiosity to hear perspectives shared during these days and to take the challenge that we want to consider. How you will act today to build a legacy for tomorrow. Thank you.
The legacies given to us by the great men and women of history all began with questions like, can this work better? It was better that gave man wings to fly. Better allowed us to shape our dreams and drive innovation. Better has remade us and transformed our health. Better has given us great art and new ways to create it. And better has given us leaders who fought to improve our lives. The same question, can it work better, is at the heart of everything we do, which is why we have an ambition to build a better working world. And the question is, what legacy will you create? The legacies given to us by the great men and women of history all began with questions like, can this work better? It was better that gave man wings to fly. Better allowed us to shape our dreams and drive innovation. Better has remade us and transformed our health. Better has given us great art and new ways to create it. And better has given us leaders who fought to improve our lives. The same question, can it work better, is at the heart of everything we do, which is why we have an ambition to build a better working world. And the question is, what legacy will you create? The legacies given to us by the great men and women of history all began with questions like, can this work better? It was better that gave man wings to fly. Better allowed us to shape our dreams and drive innovation. Better has remade us and transformed our health. Better has given us great art and new ways to create it. And better has given us leaders who fought to improve our lives. The same question, can it work better, is at the heart of everything we do, which is why we have an ambition to build a better working world. And the question is, what legacy will you create?